It's June 24th, 2016, and it's the first round of the NHL entry draft. And after landing the third overall pick in the draft lottery, the Columbus Blue Jackets are on the clock. First overall was, of course, the American sniper Auston Matthews, who everyone knows as one of, if not the best goal scorer in the league right now. He was pretty much the consensus first overall pick. Next was the consensus second overall pick, Patrik Laine. With comparisons to his fellow countryman Teemu Selanne, the Jets felt as though they got someone they could build their already competitive roster around. And next up was Columbus. And they had a few names to pick from. Jesse Puljujärvi, the Finnish two-way forward that was said could drive offense and contribute in all areas of the ice. Matthew Tkachuk, the first of Keith's sons looking to be drafted, dominated the OHL and has a mix of power, skill, and smarts. And then there was Pierre-Luc Dubois. The wide consensus for Dubois was to be picked at 4th overall. He was Central Scouting's top North American skater, but the strong finish of Matthew Tkachuk threw a wrench in the works. And despite his strong finish, Columbus opted for the French-Canadian power forward instead.
Pierre-Luc Dubois.
After being drafted, Columbus decided that he wasn't yet ready to make the jump to the NHL. In other words, he was cut from training camp and sent to play the rest of the season in the QMJHL. He started that season with the team that he was drafted by back in the 2015 QMJHL draft, the Cape Breton Eagles. He struggled though. In the first 20 games of the season, Dubois was under a point per game. And if you guys don't know, that's pretty bad. The QMJHL is historically the highest scoring league out of any Canadian junior hockey league. And for a third overall pick, being under a point per game in your draft year +1 is not very good. So a change of scenery was much needed for PLD. Cape Breton traded Dubois to the Armada for Matthias Laferriere, a 2017 first-round pick and a 2018 second-round pick. And that trade seemed to do wonders for PLD as he finished the season with 37 points in 28 games and an additional 22 points in 19 games as he led Armada all the way to the QMJHL finals, where they eventually lost. This was promising for Columbus, as I'm sure they were worried. They took him earlier than projected in the draft, then had to cut him from training camp, and then he had an underwhelming start to the season. But Dubois finishing the season strong surely put a smile on the face of the Columbus organization and their fans as they looked towards his NHL debut. Dubois was the biggest surprise of the season for the Blue Jackets in 2017-2018, starting out on the wing and then centering the Jackets' top line for most of the season. And considering what ends up happening to Dubois in Columbus, it's surprising to see that coach John Tortorella frequently praised Dubois for being unafraid of any situation and mature enough to manage the responsibilities of being a top-line player. In his rookie season, Dubois had 48 points playing in all 82 games, which was really solid for a rookie campaign. He came 8th in Calder voting and broke Rick Nash's record for the rookie scoring for the Blue Jackets franchise. So, pretty solid. Now, it didn't compare to the rookie seasons of Matthews and Laine, as they both performed super well, but it was a very promising rookie season for the former third overall pick. The next season, he increased his goal and point totals from his rookie year, and he spent much of the year on the Jackets' first line, centering Cam Atkinson and Artemi Panarin. In 82 games, PLD put up 61 points and averaged almost 18 minutes a night. But what the stats don't show is the rough patch Dubois hit at the end of the season. He didn't score for over a month in the 13 games between February 23rd and March 24th, and only managed 2 goals in the Stanley Cup playoffs, finishing with a -6. Even though he ended the season in a slump, it's worth mentioning that Dubois played all 82 games plus all 10 postseason games, being only one of 4 CBJ players to do that. So overall, it was a pretty good season for the 20-year-old. And the next season was huge for Dubois, and that's because it was going to be a contract year. With the departures of Panarin and Duchesne, the first-line center position had Dubois' name written all over it, and he was expected to pick up the offense that the team would be missing from those guys leaving. After an impressive first 2 years with Panarin on his wing, there were some doubts about whether Dubois could maintain a 20-goal, 60-point pace without an elite line mate. And well, he was fine. Despite almost everyone else being hit by injuries, Dubois played in all 70 games, and this was following 2 full 82-game seasons, meaning he hadn't missed a single game in his career, which was pretty impressive. He ranked 3rd on the team in goals, but led in assists and points. His 49 points in 70 games was a 57-point pace over 82 games, which was just 4 points less than what he had the prior year, except this time he did it without the team's best player. And obviously, the postseason was played in the bubble, and Dubois and the Jackets made it in. Dubois, with 10 points in 10 playoff games, led the team in goals, assists, and points. He contributed to nearly 40% of Columbus's goals during the postseason and led them past the Maple Leafs in the qualifying round with a hat trick in Game 3, bringing the team back from 3-0 down in that game.
All alone in for a chance. He scores! It's a hat trick and an overtime winner for Pierre-Luc Dubois.
This was a big deal for Dubois and his contract situation. He had a great regular season, being the Jackets' top offensive player, and a solid postseason with a point-per-game average. And normally that would lead to a nice payday. But the big check didn't come right away. What some people might not know is that in Game 2 against the Maple Leafs, Dubois played just 16:54, his least amount of ice time in the postseason. He was on the ice for both goals against, and even got caught on camera getting chewed out by Tortorella while sitting on the bench. So obviously this caused some concern, but still the Jackets and PLD agreed on a 2-year, $5 million per year contract on December 31st, 2020, just 2 weeks before the season would start. Due to the long contract negotiation, it's evident that Dubois and Columbus weren't seeing each other eye to eye. This poor relationship bled into the start of the season where he had just 1 goal in 5 games and was benched in 2 of those games. One of those benchings lasted almost half the game, coming after the infamous clip of Dubois displaying one of the most low-effort shifts anyone has ever played in the NHL.
And there it is, getting on the ice here. He's reading the play, it's okay, but look at this. This is where it's going to get pretty bad there. He's just following the play, and he's just not, he doesn't seem like somebody that's engaged, somebody that wants to be part of it. He's all over the place. It's just not what you want to see from your number one center. He's getting frustrated, and it's really, really hard as a head coach to watch your number one centerman that said he's not going to be a distraction, and this is the part right here. He just turns around and he's had enough. And this is telling when you're getting off the ice like that as a coach. It has to be so frustrating to put,
And that was ultimately the last game PLD ever played in a CBJ jersey, as he requested a trade and was shipped to the Winnipeg Jets in what was a blockbuster deal just a month after he signed his new contract. This trade was for none other than the player picked just 1 selection before Dubois in the draft, Patrik Laine. Laine, like Dubois, also had a long contract negotiation before the 2019-2020 season, and then found himself playing much of that season on the second line, which annoyed him because at the time only 8 players in the league had more goals than him since he debuted in 2016. Entering the 2021 season, which was the final year on his current contract, Laine's team floated the idea of a change of scenery that might work out for both Patrik and the Jets, and that's the option they went for. So on January 23rd, 2021, the deal was done.
Pierre-Luc Dubois heading to Winnipeg, as well as a 3rd-round pick in 2022, Dano. In exchange, the Jackets get goal scorer Patrik Laine, as well as hometown kid Jack Roslovic.
Now, there was speculation that PLD wanted out because of torts, which isn't that hard to believe since the two had gone at it before and there was obviously a little bit of a feud between them. But after the trade, Dubois came out and said that he was a hard coach, but I can take it, nothing is personal. That's how I see torts, and I have nothing but respect for him. So with that, the Dubois saga had ended in Columbus, and he looked to make an impact on the Winnipeg Jets. Dubois, though, had a rocky start with the Jets. First, he had to quarantine for 2 weeks when he arrived in Winnipeg due to the NHL's quarantine laws, and then just in his second game with the team, he sustained an injury that kept him out of the lineup for the next 4 games. Then, in just his 3rd game, Dubois scored his first 2 goals as a Jet in a 4-3 overtime win against the Canucks. He then went on to score only 6 more goals throughout the season, and ended with 8 goals and 12 assists in 41 games. The next season was much better though. Dubois scored 28 goals and got 32 assists, which was a big improvement from his first season, and he seemed like a great fit for the Jets lineup and leadership, possibly even a future replacement for Mark Scheifele. But with those big aspirations and his current contract ending, a payday was coming up for Dubois. But for whatever reason, Dubois wanted out. This sort of came out of nowhere as he seemed relatively happy in Winnipeg, but informed them that he didn't want to sign long term. This got the attention of fans, and people started to resent him for this. Rumors started that he was interested in joining the Canadiens, with his agent confirming he liked the idea of playing in Montreal. On July 15th, it came out that Dubois was trying to force a trade to the Canadiens, and even went to the NHL draft in Montreal hoping a deal would go down on the draft floor. Instead, the Canadiens opted for Kirby Dach from the Blackhawks.
Picks number 13 and 66 in this year's draft to the Chicago Blackhawks in exchange for Kirby Dach.
Dubois' future with the Jets remained uncertain, especially after he accepted a one-year $6 million qualifying offer from them. Next season proved to be a little bit better. With 27 goals and 36 assists for 63 points in 73 games, PLD just had the best season of his career. And with no intention of staying in Winnipeg, Dubois was traded by the Jets to the Los Angeles Kings on June 27, 2023 in exchange for Alex Iafallo, Rasmus Kupari, Gabriel Velarde, and a 2024 second-round draft pick. After being traded, Dubois signed an 8-year, $68 million contract that paid him $8.5 million per year. Dubois came out and said that he loved Kopitar growing up and loved the city of LA, making the Kings a great fit for him. He also said that when signing the contract, he not only had to think of year 1, but also year 8, meaning he planned to be around for a while. Well, I guess the Kings didn't want to see 7 more years with PLD, because after an abysmal season which saw him put up 40 points in 82 games, on June 19, 2024, he was traded to the Washington Capitals, his 4th team in his young NHL career. The trade was 1-for-1 as Dubois went to the Caps and Darcy Kemper went back over to Los Angeles. Dubois now has the chance to fill the hole at center for the Capitals, who traded Kuznetsov to the Hurricanes and saw Nick Backstrom step away from the game due to injuries last season. Given the correct opportunities, I still believe he can become a dominant player, but he has to stay focused and committed. The Capitals have given him a fresh start and a chance to rejuvenate his career, which has seen a lot of backlash and turmoil. With a new environment and a chance to step up as a key player, Dubois has the potential to finally realize the promise that made him such a high draft pick. It'll be intriguing to see how he adapts to this new role and whether he can live up to his high expectations that have followed him all throughout his career. For Dubois, this is a critical moment, one that could define the trajectory of his future in the NHL.